Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum class. I'm your instructor Zia. I welcome you to English grade 7 video lessons. My dear learners, as you know, we are dealing with our unit number 4 and the title is The Empty Pot. This will be our lecture number 4A and we are going to cover an SLO from our reading and critical thinking, and our topic is literary genres. Let's read our students' learning outcome to see what we are supposed to do and how we can achieve it by the end of our lesson. So, for reading and critical thinking competency, our SLO is discuss how readers make choices about the text they like reading. For example, by author or genre to develop new learning with a variety of texts. So what we are supposed to do is we are going to talk about how readers are making choices about what they are going to read, like if they like the author or the genre, which we will discuss, and they do it to develop new learning with a variety of different texts. So we are going to talk about the literary genres specifically in this video lesson. Now, let's get started. But before that, I'd like to introduce you to the vertical linkage of this SLO with the previous grade 6 that you have already covered. So we are dealing with the same thing over here, but in a more detailed type and version. So now, time to brainstorm a little bit. Here is a question that you need to answer. It says, what is fiction and non-fiction? Have you ever heard these two terminologies? If yes, then what do you remember? That's good. Let's move on with our topic, which is about literary genres. It's also pronounced as genre. We can also call it genre. Now, let's talk about what is a literary genre in literature. So, a genre is a particular type of literature. The two main genres are fiction and non-fiction. There are many subgenres of fiction. They are called made-up story, and non-fiction, which are based on facts. So, we come to know that a genre is a particular type of literature, and it includes both the fiction, which is made up and imaginative, and also non-fiction, which is based on real life events, experiences. So, and not only these, but there are subgenres of both fiction and non-fiction, which we will be covering in any other video lesson. But today we are going to deal with fiction and non-fiction. So this is all about literary genres. And by the term literary, we mean it's related to literature. Now, let's talk about the author. So in the world of literature, every author possesses a unique writing style and delves into specific themes within particular genres. So, the writer is also called an author, and every author has a different unique writing style. And also they deal with specific or particular themes in their books, whether it's fiction or non-fiction, and they deal with particular genres. So, let's talk about making choices about the text. Authors have their own unique writing styles shaped by how they use language, narrative techniques, and storytelling methods. These elements form a distinctive or unique voice that readers can recognize and get to know over time. So, every author have their own unique writing style. They use different language, their narrative techniques are different, and when you are reading an author so much, you will be familiar with the kind of themes, the writing style the use of language and narrative techniques used by that particular author. Let's talk about reader choices. So, how does a reader select anything to read? Readers frequently make decisions about what books to read based on their familiarity with an author's style and their past reading experiences. So, this is how a reader who wants to read something makes choices. The reader wants to pick books and authors who they are familiar with and they are very well known for them, author's style and their past reading experiences. So, and genre is, there are different literary genres such as mystery, fantasy, science fiction, historical fiction, romance, etc. And readers are interested in certain genres based on their interests, imagination, or desire for particular types of stories. So, my dear learners, this was all about the authors, how they have different distinctive styles, narratives, and techniques. We talked about different readers, how they choose what they are going to read based on their taste, their experiences, and familiarity. And genres are the categories of literature, and they have subgenres like books that are fictional but they are mysterious or related to science and also related to other kind of different subcategories. So these are all things about the author, the choices, and the genre. Now let's talk about fiction, because we are going to discuss literary genres. So in fiction, particularly because we are dealing with a fictional text in our main lesson, so that's why we are going to see fiction. So now let's talk about the very first genre or subgenre, as you like to call it. It is called fantasy. Now, fantasy is a story that is imaginative. It's based on imagination. The setting might be another world. Characters might be magical or having superpowers or magical powers. An example of it is the novel by Tolkien, The Hobbit. So now, The Hobbit is a fantasy fictional novel. Now, let's talk about another kind of genre of fiction, which is historical fiction. It's made of two words, history and fiction. So let's see how it goes. A fictional story that takes place in a particular time period in the past, because we are dealing with history. The setting is often real, but the characters are made up from the author's imagination. So, it's a blend of history and imagination. The events of history might be real, but the story could be made up. An example is the novel Salt by Helen Frost. And there could be so many different stories, novellas, and other text types that are historical fiction in nature. Let's move on to another kind of subgenre of fiction, which is called science fiction. Now, science fiction is a blend of two words, science and fiction. So we get to see a lot of science and such things in our science fiction. So it is a story based on the impact of potential science, either actual or imagined. Science fiction is one of the genres of literature that is set in the future or in other planets. So, now the science can be actual, it is possible, and it is actually doable in our real life, or it could be imagined, something like aliens or like humanoids and robots and humans hybrid. So there could be, the science could be based on facts and actuality or imagination. Now, science fiction is one of the genres of literature that is set in the future. So, unlike historical fiction, which is set in the past, the science fiction is set in the future. So, it could be about different machines, aliens, cyborgs, humanoids, and so many such kind of things. They could be possible in real life, or they could be just an imaginary concept. An example is Douglas Adams' novel, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Moving on to our another subgenre of fiction, which is called mystery. So it's a genre of fiction that deals with the solution of a crime or the unraveling of secrets. Anything that is kept secret or remains unexplained or unknown. Anything that is containing mystery, something that is unexplainable and unknown, such kind of stories, novels, or any other text type is called mystery genre. And this is a subgenre of fiction, of course. An example is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, or so many different stories of Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. Now, let's talk about another one, which is called folklore. So, the songs, stories, myths, and proverbs of a person that has been passed down by word of mouth. This is what we call a folklore. It could be a song, a story, it could be a myth, some different proverbs, and folklore is a genre of literature that is very popular. So, you must have seen a lot of movies and read a lot of books that are based on this genre of folktale. So, examples are Arabian Nights or Sinbad. So, all these are folklores, and they have come from traditional cultures, backgrounds, and they have traveled from mouth to mouth. Mostly they are not written. So you could find a lot of different folklores in different cultures and different countries. Now, let's talk about another type of genre, another genre of fiction, which is called drama. So this kind of genre is of literature that is meant to be acted on a stage. It could be also called a play. The stories are composed in verse or prose, usually for theatrical performance. Conflicts and emotions are expressed through dialogue and action. So dramas are made to be acted on stage live in front of an audience, and it is also called a play that is written to be performed. Now the stories, the drama script can be made of different verses, poetic verses, or it could be just a simple prose, simple writing. So it is usually for theatrical performances. A very great dramatist of literature, English literature, is Shakespeare. And Shakespeare has written this drama, The Merchant of Venice, Hamlet, Othello, and so many other dramas that are still being performed on stage and the audiences enjoy it. So you could read any play of Shakespeare, and that would be considered a subgenre of fiction, which is drama. Now, for realistic fiction, again, like the previous genres, this one is made up of two words: realistic, realism, or reality, and fiction. So this kind of fiction is based on reality. Let's see. A story that seems real or could happen in real life. It is set in the present and includes modern problems of everyday life. So it could be real or it could happen in real life. So stories based on this kind of scenario is what we call our realistic fiction. Now, let's talk about some genres and some subgenres of non-fiction category. Now, first we have autobiography. Now, this is made up of two words, auto and biography. It's a kind of biography that the person has written by himself or herself. So, it's the story of a real person's life that is written by himself or herself. An example is Nelson Mandela, who was a famous freedom fighter. He wrote his autobiography called Long Walk to Freedom. Another one is biography. Now, this type of text, it's a true story and author writes about another person. For example, now Alice Calabrese and Trevor Lipscomb they have written the biography of the famous scientist Albert Einstein. Another one is narrative fiction. Now, this is also made up of two words, narration and non-fiction. So, a narrator tells a story about people, things, animals, or events, current or historical. The information is organized around an idea. So, this could be about things, animals, or events that are current or happened in the past, which means historical. So, this kind of scenario would be in the this genre will be called our narrative non-fiction. It has a narration. It could be on real life, or it could be about people, places, or any non-living things. Now, after learning about all the subgenres of fiction and non-fiction, you could watch this simulation video later on to learn more about literary genres. And for your classroom activity, you have to read a book or a short story that falls outside your usual reading. Go through some books in your library and choose your favorite genre. Write a reflection or create a presentation discussing your experiences, exploring who you liked or didn't like about stepping outside your comfort zone. So this is your classroom activity where you need to grab a book and read it, and you can take different kind of genres. This is your worksheet that you can solve, and for your homework you have to read a piece of fiction and notice what elements make it work of fiction, such as the characters, settings, and events. So you can take up any fictional work like Harry Potter or Douglas Adams novel and try to see that how you can categorize this in a fictional category. Now, after all these things, here we have our resources attached for you. They can be found in the description of the video. My dear learners, thank you. I hope that we have achieved our students' learning outcome. We talked about different genres, fiction and non-fiction, and their subgenres, along with some examples. We also talked about author's choice and reader's choice, and also about the term called genre. Till the next video lesson, Allah Hafiz.